Hey, good afternoon. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Farm Country Updates webinar, where we'll be talking about using social media advertising to reach agricultural audiences. Today's speakers have done some audience research to better understand how we as marketers can reach farmer and farmer influencer audiences more effectively through social media. They'll be sharing their research findings, their insights, and recommendations so you can take home a few ideas to test out in your own marketing. This webinar is scheduled to be about 45 minutes long, so sit back, grab a cup of coffee, and we do encourage you to get social by submitting questions in the chat room throughout the webinar, and we'll do our best to answer questions as we go. There'll be time at the end of the webinar for Q&A. Please note, we will send out the recording of the presentation to all attendees. Slide 2. Yeah. For introductions, I will start. I am Bob Shank. I am going to serve as your moderator. I am based here in Chicago, where I head up the sales duties for Precision Reach. Just a little over a year ago, we were acquired by Farm Journal. It is the Farm Journal's robust database we utilize to deliver programmatic and social campaigns for our ag clients. But now let's meet today's speakers. We have Michael Jung, Renee Larson, and Amanda Olson from the Precision Reach team. I'm going to ask each to introduce themselves. Michael, let's start with you.
Great. Hi, everyone. I'm Michael Jung. I'm in Minneapolis today. I've been with Precision Reach for 4 years. I'm really passionate about digital advertising and super excited to share with you all what we've learned about social media use by various ag audiences.
Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Olson. I am also located in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I am the operations team lead here at Precision Reach, and I'm excited to be here today talking about precise social. It is such a large part of our world and isn't going to go away anytime soon. So I'm excited to share our findings with the agriculture space.
And hi, everyone. I'm Renee. I'm also based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. As a marketing professional myself, I know how important it is to know your audience and how best to reach them. So I'm excited for our Precision Reach team to share the insights and recommendations that we've learned on agriculture audiences that hopefully you guys can leverage in your own marketing.
Great. Thanks, team. For the agenda, our speakers are going to walk us through a few slides that they have prepared. They'll be doing an overview of their audience research and providing some social media insights and recommendations. At the end, we will do Q&A, but as mentioned before, please feel free to write your questions in the chat throughout the webinar. We'll try to keep things casual and interactive. With that being said, I'm going to hand it off to our speakers. Michael?
Thanks, Bob. As we started this endeavor, there was a big question. And the big question was, how do you reach farmers on social media? And we even expanded a little bit beyond just farmers, but thought about it in terms of non-farmer ag influencers. As agri-marketers, our job is not easy, but I think most of us know what the job is. It's reach the right person in the right place at the right time. And to do that in today's world, you really need to be able to target your audience with data. You need to know where your audience is. And ultimately, the product message needs to fit with the persona that you're trying to reach. The box kind of highlights the space that we're playing in today, or the findings that we're going to share. It's reaching the right audience in the right place. Our approach to answering that question was both quantitative and qualitative. We researched social media match rates, but we also conducted a survey of the audience members that we matched up to various social platforms. key to our research is really about the data that we have. I think Bob mentioned we were acquired by Farm Journal a year ago. We Precision Reach. The Farm Journal data is incredibly robust. On the left-hand side, you can see 11 different ag audiences. And Farm Journal is able to have such a robust database because of all the publications and sources we use to gather the data, right? Our circulation data, government source data, et cetera. Each of these 11 audiences were audiences that we were interested in knowing where they can be found in social media. Let's go to the next slide. Thanks. So when we say social media, what are we talking about? Well, Facebook and Instagram come to mind, but there are others as well. We chose Facebook and Instagram plus 5 others, so far a total of 6 to explore. There could have been others on this list, but we felt like these were the best or most likely places for us to find ag audiences. And for clarity, we think of Facebook and Instagram as one platform. The user experience is 2, but on the back end, these are really combined. So when we push an audience, it gets pushed to the Facebook, Instagram platform, singular. And when we run a campaign, it's run against a singular platform. So we merge those together, even if you think of them as 2 separate experiences.
Michael, there's a question in the chat about these social media platforms. Is YouTube now social media?
Oh, I get asked that almost all the time. Thanks, Renee.
Yeah.
There's a raging debate. You can Google it if you'd like, about whether YouTube is a social platform or a search engine. I think there are merits to thinking of it either way. Ultimately, Precision Reach is able to serve our audiences on YouTube using programmatic, which is really our bread and butter. So for this research, we weren't so curious as to whether or not we could reach the farmer audiences on YouTube. We know we can.
Awesome.
Yep. Okay, let's talk about match rate. On the right-hand side, we've got a definition. So the total number of identified folks found on a particular platform divided by the total audience size is a match rate. For example, if I had 100 250 plus row crop growers and 80 of them, we found 80 of them to have accounts on Facebook, we would say the match rate on Facebook is 80%. Hopefully that's clear. I want to share a little bit on the left-hand side about how we do this. We take the personally identifiable information and push to a vendor that we use called LiveRamp. LiveRamp matches on that personally identifiable information, and then we push it down to the platform. This is essential for how we match and is much more robust than if you were to push an email address or email list up to Facebook, for example. But match rate's really key, you know, and the example, I'll throw out another example. It's really the question that we're really trying to answer, and that is 250 plus row crop growers in 12 North Central states. What would the match rate be on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram, or on LinkedIn, et cetera? That's really what we want to know. And we want to know that for all of those audiences that we shared earlier.
So before Michael really digs into all of the match rate findings, we wanted to pose a question to all of you on the webinar today. We ask that if you're comfortable to please write and submit your answer in the chat, and we will be looking through the chat. The question is, which social media platform do you think had the highest match rate for 250 plus row crop growers in the 12 North Central states? Facebook, Snapchat, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Twitter, or TikTok? And reminder, you know, based on what Michael had said just earlier on Instagram, you can think of Instagram lumped in with Facebook here. So let's give everybody a minute to submit their answers. I'm seeing a lot of Facebook in the chat, a few Twitter, LinkedIn, a lot of Facebook. Somebody said that the chat is unavailable to users, so we need to use the Q&A function. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm seeing all of your stuff in the Q&A, so that's perfect. Yeah, lots of Facebook and Twitter, one Pinterest, a Snapchat, but a majority of people are saying Facebook. Thank you, everybody who has put in your guess into the chat for the Q&A. We really appreciate. Okay. So, Michael, that's what we're seeing in the Q&A. Would you like to give everybody the answer on the next slide?
Sure. Yep. Let's do that.
Okay.
Full disclosure, I thought I knew what the answer was going to be. I would have guessed Facebook. We've run Facebook at Precision Reach for, well, frankly, as long as I've been here. And there's a really strong match rate in Facebook for 250 plus row crop and 12 North Central. But as we reveal, it wasn't the platform with the highest match rate. It was Snapchat, and it sounded like at least one person guessed Snapchat correctly. In full disclosure, I was really surprised by that. I would have not, that wouldn't have been my second or third choice either. But let's talk about a little bit, Renee, if we could go to the full version of what we're sharing here, because I want to share sort of across the board, what are the other surprises or expected things that we uncovered? And the first was Snapchat just wasn't strong with 250 plus row crop in the 12 North Central. It was strong for all producers. I would say that my second biggest surprise was Twitter not having as strong of a match rate as conventional wisdom would have indicated. I would have probably have guessed Twitter would have been number 2 behind Facebook at the start of this exercise. Big third surprise was Pinterest having a strong match rate as well. Not quite as strong as Facebook or Snapchat, generally speaking, but much stronger than I would have anticipated. And sort of my fourth big takeaway is Facebook was as strong as expected, I think, or really quite strong. The surprise triggered us to actually conduct this test not once and not twice, but 3 times. And after the third time, I finally relented and said, this is what the data is. And we did this over an 8-week period, so it wasn't like it was an anomaly. Yeah.
Michael, we have a question in the chat. Somebody is wondering what CCA means and PCA.
Yep. Certified Crop Advisor is what CCA means. It's a list from the ASA, American Society of Agronomy. PCA is the similar or equivalent in the state of California. I think it's Pest Control Advisor, but there's a crop subsegment of that audience is what PCA is.
Perfect. Somebody also is wondering if they'll be able to access or replay these slides after the webinar. And we do want to note that we will be sending out the recording too.
Yep. Okay, so I have a Twitter account. I've had it for a long time, and I haven't logged in 5 years. Just because there's a high match rate, it doesn't indicate that if audience members are spending a significant amount of time on a given platform.
We're getting some good questions in the chat too. I'm going to keep teeing you up, Michael. One person asked, when you say 250 plus row crop, for example, are we talking about 250 total identity records? Is that the
Oh.
same for 50 plus beef, or what does the 250 and 50 mean?
Great question, sorry. 250 plus acres of row crop. So there were hundreds of thousands in the row crop segment that we pushed. 50 plus head or more of the beef segment. That hopefully clarify.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Can you remind us all of how we measured these matches?
Oh, sure. So maybe even flip back to the match rate
Yeah.
slide. Yep, that definition probably got some more context now. We know the total audience that Farm Journal has in their database for these individual segments. And then we were able to log into each of these social accounts and see how many unique accounts were identified from that audience. So again, if I pushed 100 folks from the row crop segment and we found 80 accounts, we would say the match rate was 80%. Of course, we're pushing, in the case of 250 plus row crops in the 12 North Central, we're pushing hundreds of thousands of anonymized individuals. Okay, not hearing any more questions. Let me tee up sort of that next piece again. Just because I have an account doesn't mean I'm there. It doesn't mean that I necessarily have an opportunity as an agri-marketer. So we needed to take it a step further, and I think Amanda's going to share a bit about that.
I sure am. Renee, if you could, thank you. Okay, as Michael just mentioned, match rate alone doesn't indicate if audience members are spending significant time on a given platform. So we wanted to take the research a step further and conduct a survey. The survey was an e-blast that we sent out to individuals in the 11 agriculture audience segments. Our goal was to understand how frequently individuals were using their social accounts. So on the screen on the right, there's a box that has an example of what we asked in this survey. And basically we just asked, how often are you spending time on X platform? So for example, how often do you spend time on, let's say, Snapchat? So we then provided multiple choice answers for them to choose between. So yearly, monthly, weekly, daily, and then we had some other options as well. We received responses across our 11 ag audience segments, upwards of 2,400, which is a great outcome. Shortly after the survey concluded, we took a closer look at these survey responses and also leaned back on the match rate data that Michael explained in a previous slide. And we were able to kind of put it all together and draw some conclusions, which Renee will go into next.
Yeah. So here's what we did with all of our research data. As Amanda said, we've taken our audience match rate findings and we've married it with our survey results to give you some key takeaways. We wanted to be able to provide you with some high-level overarching recommendations that takes into account the qualitative research with our quantitative. We do want to note that when putting together these recommendations, we did look for trends among the match rates and the survey responses, because there's a lot here with all the different platforms and the audiences. So these are our insights based off of the trends that we saw between the two. So starting with the green circle, these are our top recommendations for any of the audiences. This is where we saw high match rates on the platform and also trends in the survey responses of platform users, where many said that they were using it frequently, either weekly or daily. Both Facebook and Snapchat fell into that category. Because of that, we think that there's a lot of opportunity to try to reach ag audiences on these two platforms. We also wanted to point out a few areas to explore. These are areas where something stuck out to us that we felt was worth noting or sharing. The first is TikTok. As you saw with a few of the segments, there were lower matches on TikTok, lower match rates. And when looking at our survey responses, although there were fewer respondents active on TikTok, those that are stated to use it quite frequently, actually. So based on that and what we know about the TikTok platform being a younger platform, we think that this could be an opportunity to try to reach younger farmer audiences or younger agriculture audiences who could be using it more frequently than others. LinkedIn was also interesting. And what stuck out to us was the non-farmer ag professionals, like retailers, for example. For these audiences, there were strong match rates, and also the survey responses of platform users showed that there was a fair amount using it frequently as well. So if you're trying to reach non-farmer ag professionals, LinkedIn could be a platform for you to try. Lastly, we wanted to note Pinterest. Pinterest was really interesting for us to look into. Our match rates were surprisingly high. In the survey study, we found that fewer of the respondents were actually engaging in the platform. But based on what we found with the match rates, we think it could be interesting and maybe worth testing to see what kind of engagement you can get. We're very curious ourselves as to how different ag ads would perform on Pinterest. So those are the high level insights that we wanted to share from our research.
So what's the big takeaway? We got match rates, we got engagement. Here's really your big opportunity. The way I like to think about it is an agri-marketer is making an investment to really try to drive a business result. So here's the investment opportunity, is to combine audience data and to marry your brand voice with the social platform ecosystem. And when I say that, you've got to be true to your brand voice. You got to hit the right target, and they have to be there. And it needs to fit in the environment that you're serving that message in. The message on LinkedIn can't or shouldn't probably be the same as what you'd serve on TikTok if you needed some clarity about how that ecosystem fit needs to work. But based on our findings, we really think there's a big opportunity for agri-marketers. This group, Renee, Amanda, and myself, have executed social campaigns on these 6 different platforms as part of our investigation. We used our CRM data to run these campaigns, and we're confident in executing these campaigns. So we're now excited to include these tactics in our portfolio of data-driven, audience-driven offers of Precision Reach. We hope today and our findings have inspired you to think about how best to reach farmers and ag audiences on social media. And of course, we'd love to help you. And if you want more specifics about a particular audience, we'd be happy to share those insights with you. At this point, I think we're ready for Q&A. And when I look at the Q&A bubble down at the bottom, it says 99 plus. So maybe there's a few questions out there.
I know a lot of that was people submitting their guess for the highest match rate, but we do have a lot of questions at the bottom too.
Michael, why don't we start with the question about the chart? They're asking why dairy and other demos are not revealed. Do you want to address that?
Sure, we'd be happy to share those results. Just connect with our sales team and they'd love to walk you through that. And once you share sort of what audiences you're interested in, we can also dig up the survey results and see what engagement levels those different audience segments had as well.
Right.
I'm seeing a good question. I'm going to jump in, Bob. I'm reading these
yeah,
too. How is farmer defined? Do we know how many of these are decision makers versus those passively owning the land?
When we pushed the audiences, we did not push sole landowners. So owner operators are the operator or owner operator are the identifiers that we used to push and find these results.
Michael, on that topic, address at the household level versus individual. Some of the questions are coming in about, hey, do we break it out by age group? Could Snapchat be a lot of the children within the farm household?
Yep, happy to unpack that. So I mentioned we pushed the audience 3 times. The first time we pushed it, we pushed by matching at the household level, and we saw those results. And I said, nope, we're doing that again. And we're going to match only at the individual level. Specifically, I wanted to know, is it Farmer Joe that we're matching to? I don't want Jack Smith, his son. I don't want his wife. I don't want the grandmother. I only want to know the owner operator. So we pushed at the individual level, and then we pushed again at the individual level that third time to validate our results. So to answer, it's at an individual level, not the household level. You asked about age. We ran the survey, and after the fact, we went back to our respondents and appended age and started to break down the survey results by age. One of the key outcomes of that effort was we saw the engagement on TikTok. It skewed younger, like much younger, which is insightful and probably as expected, but nice to validate that.
Here's another question. Is third-party tracking available like Google Campaign Manager and IAS for brand safety measurements?
Renee and Amanda, you guys were in the details. I'm gonna lean to you. What, and I know it might be specific for each of the platforms, but I know it's not quite as robust for program as we find in programmatic, but what do we know about social?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's one of the areas that we're starting to dig into more now that we kind of understand each of the platforms in general. You're right, each platform was different. Some had the ability to attach like a 1-by-1 impression tracker, while others did not. That's something that we're still kind of looking into. Michael, I see a few questions here still about the relationship between Facebook and Instagram. Would you mind talking about that again? Just like, is Instagram looped in with the Facebook data? Is Facebook still considered Facebook and Instagram, and some of the things that we were referring to?
Full disclosure, this is Mike's interpretation, but really there are two different user experiences. If you're on Instagram, you're definitely on Instagram. If you're on Facebook, you're definitely on Facebook. So from a end user perspective, they're really a different feel. They feel like two separate products. On the back end, Facebook, of course, acquired Instagram. And when you run paid advertising on either of those, you use the same platform. And when you push an audience to that platform for use on either Facebook or Instagram or both, you push to just the same platform. It's sort of weird. It's kind of like user facing, it's two separate things. Everything under the covers is very much integrated. We can and have executed campaigns only to Facebook or only to Instagram. Usually when our clients ask for that, I ask them, why are they only interested in reaching their target audience on one or the other? And usually they say, well, I guess if my audience is on both, I want to reach both. And then we just run the campaigns to serve both. Hopefully that answers the question.
Michael, we got a few questions on Pinterest. Can you want to address that? It seems to be a surprise for a lot of people. And I know it was for us, but any more comments on that? And any other thoughts on how Pinterest
Sure.
went with our survey and the match rate? So
Yep. I'm very surprised as well, and started talking internally with folks who work at Farm Journal who also are connected to operations, and they were less surprised. Important to note, the engagement rates are lower on Pinterest versus Snapchat or Facebook. When I study the user experience on Facebook and compare that to Snapchat and compare that to Pinterest, I see the opportunity for an agri-marketer on Snapchat. I think that there's a strong likelihood of driving a business outcome through Snapchat advertising in the ag space. I'm less convinced of it in Pinterest, but I want to put out there, Pinterest would not be a platform that I use myself. And even after exploring it, I have very little interest in ever using it. But I think it does create an opportunity where if someone can find that message that resonates with that person who's there in and fits in Pinterest, it could really be a great opportunity. And I'd say head out to Pinterest and start looking for agriculture equipment. And I think you will find there's a lot of equipment on Pinterest, either for sale or for viewing, which is an indicator to me that there's probably a healthy amount of activity there. Let me conclude with this. Our recommendation is you could try it. And you probably really need to be well grounded in the Pinterest environment and understand what a good ad looks like in Pinterest. I think it's worth trying and measuring the business outcome, because at the end of the day, it's not just about coming up with cool ads, even though that's fun and being in social. It's about driving a business outcome. And I would, if I was an agri-marketer, I would test with some of my budget on each of these key platforms where there's a strong indication that there's an opportunity. And then I'd iterate like all good marketers do, A/B test, ABC test, and look to drive that business outcome. Pinterest is one of those that I would dabble in just to kick the tires on it.
Michael, let's shift gears over to Snapchat. There's several questions on Snapchat. Any other qualitative insights about Snapchat you can share?
No. Let me throw it out to Renee or Amanda. You guys ran some tests on that platform. What is it about the experience or the creative that would make it easy to get someone engaged? And posing that question, I have some thoughts, but I want you guys' voice in here.
Yeah. So I think based on being in the platform and having my own account personally, videos are going to be your best friend on Snapchat. It'll be important to make the ad feel native to Snapchat. Something that's interesting about Snapchat is the way you flow through the platform in terms of like you swipe places up, down, wherever. And I think that makes it more engaging for whoever is on that platform. And so keeping that in mind when you're creating your ads and you're swiping, like think about what would look good in that environment. And I love Snapchat, so I'm excited about how it's it showed up in the match rates in the survey.
I'll add to that too. Amanda's so right. Like making sure that your creative feels natural in the ecosystem of Snapchat is really important. Like Snapchat is one of those platforms where you're going to see videos. Like when you go to the explore area of Snapchat, there's going to be videos of people. All these videos are really short. So it's important with your creative that you make sure that you capture the attention of your audience within a first couple of seconds. Also, a lot of people who are engaging in the videos on Snapchat, their sound is on. So we call it a sound on environment, where if you're producing a video yourself, having a sound or music or a voiceover is also really important. It's all about how do you fit into the ecosystem to make it feel natural.
Thanks.
I saw a question. Just to note, there's a lot of questions in the Q&A. I don't know if we'll get to them all, but let's just keep going through them. There was one along these same lines where somebody had asked, okay, I can't find it. I'll do my best to try to summarize what I remember reading. Somebody had asked, like, they don't have like a very well established brand or page for their company on each of the social platforms. So how do you suggest going about running a campaign if you yourself or your company doesn't normally use Snapchat or Facebook or LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'll answer for Facebook, and then I'll Renee, look to you and Amanda to talk about the other 5. But in Facebook, there's some good options that we offer. One is I can run tied to your brand's Facebook page, but if it's not well established, we can also run social tied to any of Farm Journal's branded Facebook pages. The way I think about this is there's hey, I want my brand next to the Farm Journal brand, and there's value in that, even though it's my message. So on Facebook, I've got a really good solution for you. Each of the platforms will be different, but Amanda or Renee, do you guys want to jump in and talk about how we'd handle that scenario for any of the other platforms?
I think we'd handle it similarly. I think with the other platforms, one thing that we could explore is to see if there's, some sort of Farm Journal page or some sort of organic page that we could offer to people who might not have their own. Otherwise, because you'll be running these campaigns to a target audience, you don't, it's not about a following that you have, So if there's a way for you to easily just create a business account or a business page for us to be able to run ads from that, at least your brand is represented as the sponsor, like because you'll be running a paid ad to, a target audience, that following isn't as important, I would say. Would you agree with that, Michael?
Yeah, that's the beauty of audience driven, right? We're going to inject the ad into someone else's, for lack of a better term, feed. And so it's not like you're trying to get them necessarily to your page, or it doesn't matter how well established your page is.
Michael, we're getting a lot of questions on Twitter. One question is, it's traditionally had a strong ag community. Does this data indicate that it is a small but vocal community? Is it getting less important?
I think that person's onto something. Conventional wisdom certainly I would have imagined Twitter would have been stronger in match rates. The fact that it's not, and there has been at least a loud voice in ag, probably indicates that, yeah, it was a much smaller chunk of the ag world than once imagined. I'd imagine Twitter, Twitter's been in the news as of late over the last 6 months. It wouldn't be the first place that I would start dabbling if I had an investment that I needed to make and I needed to reach ag audiences and drive a business outcome. It wouldn't be the first place that I'd make my investment. That would be a little too risky for me.
I'm sorry, I'm still reading. There's a lot of them here. A lot of questions on age, Michael. In the survey, I know you went back and appended ages. Is there any more insights you can have on that, or is there any future studies we have in mind that will address age and gender?
Let's talk about future studies. So as I shared this internally, I got a bazillion questions, as you can imagine, probably most of the questions that have been asked today. I definitely would push or audiences and append age where we have it, and study that on the front end, not just in the survey responses, but also in the matches. So that's a future opportunity for us. There were a handful of other social platforms that I could imagine us running a similar test to in the future as well. Reddit has come to mind. I joke, but there's a platform called Be Real, and at their current trajectory, who knows, maybe in a couple of years, it will have taken us by storm, and everyone will be doing that one, and we'll have to answer the question about ag audiences on Be Real.
Great. Wow, there's a lot of questions here. I'm trying to sort through them here. Renee, have you filtered in further?
There's a few questions on metrics, just like what kind of metrics are you guys looking at, or is there any, metric information that we want to provide or talk about?
Great question. I indicated that we ran campaigns to CRM data. Metrics looked good for B2B audiences that we ran. Again, it's your message, it's your business outcome. That's, you know, every campaign is its own little test. I'll say this, LinkedIn, while expensive, drove a very healthy click-through rate, very healthy, and on a cost per click basis was ultra competitive. Snapchat calls their clicks a swipe up. So you'll get a swipe up rate, which I think is sort of a funny term. I'm not sure why we don't just call it a click, but we'll call it a swipe up. But otherwise, the sort of standard digital metrics come into play. For the most part, you're probably measuring something like a click or an engagement. If you're running a video, I think those platforms had the equivalent of a video completion rate. Viewability, guys, what did we see for viewability? Is there an equivalent sort of thing for that?
I think it's mostly leaned towards engagement, you know, because with social media, it extends beyond the click to, are people engaging with your ad, liking, commenting, sharing, you know, things like that go beyond the click. So a lot of the platforms are centered around that kind of metric.
Yeah. Around metrics, we didn't have any that were a total bomb, which was, I think, a good indicator, right? If we'd have had like 0 clicks in our campaigns, that would have been a red flag for me, but that really wasn't the case, and really comparable to our programmatic metrics is probably, if I had to generalize, is probably a pretty fair statement.
I think I'm okay. So I don't know if we're going to be able to get to through all the questions. I am seeing that it's 3:45, which I know is our stopping mark. We did not address all the questions, so I think it's important to note that if there's something that we didn't get the chance to answer, you can reach out to the Precision Reach team through the email that's on the slide here. Bob, is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, that'd be great. Reach out that way, or if you want to contact us directly. I think a lot of you might have our Precision Reach sales or even your Farm Journal rep email. We'll be back in touch. Michael will be sharing this recording of this presentation, correct?
Yep.
Okay. I think that's all. Yeah, we have a lot of questions we didn't get to, Michael, but we'll huddle back up and respond to these directly if we can. So
Sounds great.
Appreciate everybody's time.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.